All right, looking good, family. Let's go ahead and rock and roll. We go ahead and get this party started, y'all. I'm super excited. Man, first of all, happy new year. We are officially here, y'all. 2026 is upon us. If you made it, consider yourself blessed. So many things to get caught up on here to share with you. Hold on here one second. Just make sure we're good here. Yep, that looks amazing. So many things to get caught up on, but hey, let's start with this, y'all. Kind of let's get the party started with this type of energy. Let me pull this up here. Let's go ahead and get the party started with this kind of energy. So, question for you: if your income stopped today, how long would your lifestyle last? Let me ask that again. If your income, and when I say your income, I'm talking about your earned income, the income where you trade your time for money, your W 2 job. Or if you're self-employed, you don't have a team, the work that you do, you're an attorney, you're a dentist, you're a doctor, you get paid for the work that you do. And if you don't show up and do the work, you don't get paid. So if your earned income, your active earned income stopped today, how long would your lifestyle last? I want you to answer that question for me. How long would your lifestyle last? All right. So let's jump right into it, y'all. Welcome to the Cash Flow Show. My name is Perry Jeffries. I'm your financial strategist, your fractional CFO, and founder of Cashflow Unlocked. And this is the show where we help high income earners stop working for money and start building systems of ownership, cash flow, and freedom. So works become optional. So, on this particular episode today, y'all, we're going to break down this whole work optional piece because you maybe have heard me say it and you may be like, man, Perry, I don't really understand what you mean when you say work optional. What is this thing that you're talking about? Well, quick story. How we got to this work optional concept was not an accident. It's something that was deep inside me for a while. I just never knew how to articulate it, right? And the whole work optional concept and is around this is you being in a place where you have enough cash flow coming in from different assets. Those assets could be real estate, those assets could be your business, it could be multiple different things, right? But you have enough income coming in from your assets where you no longer have to trade your time for money. That is what we call financial freedom. And that is how we measure financial freedom. No longer having to trade your time for money. That is what work optional looks like, right? And what's wild is when I had this idea, right? And it's like, man, am I losing my mind? Is this crazy? And I found out like, nah, there are a lot of other people out there thinking along the same lines that I have. Even going back now to reading some of the books from Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, it reminds me of playing the game Cash Flow. And if you never played the Robert Kiyosaki game Cash Flow, you definitely should get it. Matter of fact, they should actually plug me because I recommend the game all the time. But we have the game at the house. And in the game of Cash Flow, what you're trying to do is get out the rat race. What is the rat race? The rat race is you trading your time for money and trying to keep up, with your expenses. So it's like, ooh, I gotta work because I got bills to pay. Ooh, I have more bills. Okay, I gotta work more and put in some overtime. Oh, I got more bills to pay. Okay, I gotta work more, put in some overtime and get a second job, right? And you get into this paycheck depletion cycle, right? That is called the rat race. And in order to get out the rat race, you have to acquire assets. That could be, dividend stocks, that could be insurance products, that could be retirement plans, could be real estate, could be businesses, but you have to acquire assets where you no longer have to trade your time for money. And when the cash flow from those assets are more than your expenses, that's how you win the game on the game cash flow, right? So I've played this game for shoot, probably going on close to 2 decades now. But it really hit me over here the past couple of years. Like that game was truly teaching me how to become work optional. So I never connected the dots that getting out of the rat race was the same thing as being work optional. And when I connected those dots here recently, over the past, 2.5, 3 years, the light bulb went off, right? And this is how we started to move in this direction. So we are no longer talking about, retirement, because that's what we've been conditioned to believe. We've been conditioned to believe that we have to work, 20, 30, 40 years, put money into, our 401ks or retirement accounts, or depend on pension plans from the state or the government. And one day, hopefully, prayerfully, we'll be able to one day retire and be free to do the things that our heart desires. Well, I call BS on that, because individuals have been becoming work optional or escaping the rat race for centuries now. And it's about time that we start to really lean into that and understand that concept. But before we can understand that concept, there's some mental gymnastics that we have to navigate. So before I go on, let me just come here and check my comments here. If you were conditioned to believe that you had to work, for 30, 40 years to hopefully one day retire at 65. Just comment that. Just comment retirement. Comment retirement in the chat. I'm saying? I want to see who's all awake with us here. I see some viewers here watching us live. Some individuals may be watching the recording. But comment if you were conditioned to believe that you had to work to age 65, right? Just type retirement in the comments. Type retirement in the comments. Let me see who's out there rocking with us. All right, sweet, sweet, sweet. Right. Because, when I got into the industry over 20 years ago, that's what it was. It was all about, hey, helping people retire, growing their wealth. Right. But nobody was talking about, hey, how about you help your clients escape the rat race? How about you help your clients acquire assets that allow them to have time freedom and to have security and peace of mind when they go to sleep at night, and give them abundance so they can be a blessing to other people. Right. It's crazy that I came into an industry where the whole, industry was built upon, hey, get people to invest and build their wealth for long term, versus, when we look at the truly wealthy, they actually build cash flow for right now. Okay. So I'm gonna help you guys with some of the mental gymnastics that I have also had to navigate as well. I have a list right here. Here's the deal. Why most people never become work optional, even when they could. And you might be like, well, Perry, what do you mean? Even when they could? What I have come to know, not hey, a theory or whatnot. This is what I come to know from, my own personal finances and also helping other clients become work optional, is this. More people are closer to becoming work optional than they are to retirement. And I know that's going to be like, P, what are you talking about? More people are closer to become work optional than they are retirement. Let me give you guys some quick math here. And I shared this last night on our 2026 goal setting workshop. If you needed $5,000 a month to live off of, and you were planning like, okay, I got to work, work to retire, and I need $5,000 a month. If your sole income was coming from, let's say, your 401k, that means that inside your 401k, you're saying I need $60,000 a year. So that, that's 5,000 times 12. So that's 60. If you want to know what the traditional financial system would have you believe, is this. If you took, $60,000, put this on your calculator, you know what I'm saying? See the math for yourself. Take $60,000, divide that by 5%, right? And the reason I say 5%, there's a thing out there called the 5% rule. Hey, grow your nest egg to, X amount, and you should be to draw down 5% a year and never run out of money. That is what the market has told us. That's what the financial system wants us to believe, right? That means that you would need, according to my calculator, and hopefully my calculator looks like your calculator because we're talking about math, you would need at least 1.2 million in that nest egg. The reality of it is, and you guys can go Google this yourself, the majority of folks don't even have $1,000 in savings to cover a short-term emergency. You have demographics in the marketplace who have less than $10,000 in their retirement plans, right? So not everybody is near this $1.2 million. And if you are near that number, consider yourself blessed and highly favored, you know what I'm saying? And possibly even lucky, right? So, Perry, why are you saying this? Well, let me back, let me kind of backtrack a little bit. Most people aren't close to that 1.2 million, but how many people could get closer to generating $5,000 a month coming in from different assets like rental properties or private money lending or entrepreneurship or buying a franchise or investing in other businesses, investing in somebody else's businesses, right? When you start to think about that, the opportunities are actually endless, right? So I asked the question, and I'll ask the question to you guys watching the show today. Would it be easier for you to generate $5,000 a month in monthly recurring cash flow from different assets, or save and invest and hope you have $1.2 million, sometime in the future? How quickly could you, with being super intentional and the right coaching and the right mindset shift and the right strategies and understanding how to think like the bank and how to create leverage and cash flow, how quickly could you knock down that $5,000 a month? And you might be able to knock that out in 12 to 36 months. And that's what we tell people who come into our mastermind program. Hey, our goal is to help you become work optional in the next 12 to 36 months, right? Because that number is pretty, I'm saying, we can knock that number down. But if we were to say, hey, we're going to help you, grow your nest egg from 0 to 1.2 million in 36 months, that's a tall task, right? I won't say impossible, but that is a tall task, right? You would have to have a lot of money to work for you and get a phenomenal return in a short period of time for you to get that, right? So the reality of it is, many people are closer to being work optional than they are retirement. Yeah, I've seen this with some of my clients before, right? Where I meet with them and say, hey, I'm gonna have you retired in about 12 months. And they look at me like sideways, like, what is this crazy dude talking about? But it happened, right? We did it in 12 months. I think we did it in like 16 or 18 months. But it's just understanding what number you're trying to solve for. The number you're trying to solve for is your monthly living expenses, i.e., getting out of the rat race and no longer having to trade your time for dollars. So let me do a quick check-in real quick. If you guys are, picking up what I'm laying down, just type cash flow in the chat for me. Type cash flow in the chat for me. All right, sweet. Sweet. Type cash flow in the chat for me. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, let's keep rocking. All right. So now let's get into this mindset shift. With respects to individuals being, most people thinking they'll never, become work optional, there's a couple reasons why, right? So you're not stuck because of money. You're actually stuck because of conditioning. We have been conditioned to believe that the playbook for at least my generation, right, was, hey, go to school, graduate from high school, go to college, get a degree, get a high paying job, put money into your retirement plan, retire, age 65. Now, my family's playbook, my parents' playbook, the generation before me was, hey, go to high school, learn the three R's, read, writing, and arithmetic, which is crazy when you think about they call that the three R's because, only one of those start with an R, but that's neither here nor there, right? And then go get a job at like, a plant, okay, at a factory and work until you get your pension, right? So had a lot of family working at Chrysler and GM and things of that nature. My dad is a retired firefighter, kind of the same deal, no college degree, but was able to get a job as a firefighter. I think he was, the second class of black firefighters ever hired in Akron. And, he worked there, until he retired, and now he receives a pension. So that was their playbook, right? But what is our playbook moving forward? Okay. So that's what we've been conditioned to believe. So here's the deal. After working with like hundreds of high income professionals, and realizing that there's about 4 real reasons people don't move forward towards becoming work optional. So let's break them down. Number 1, you've been conditioned to believe that it's not possible. From day one, you've been taught work until age 60 or 70, save, sacrifice, delay, live below your means, pay off all your debt, get 2 and 3 side hustles, right? Don't go on that vacation. Don't buy that tomahawk steak for $250, right? Turn all the lights off. Those are the things that many of us were taught, right? Because it was, hey, you have to sacrifice today for a better life tomorrow, right? And freedom comes later. That's what we were conditioned to believe. So when we present this whole idea of this work optionality, right, your brain immediately is like, oh, that's not for me, right? That's for rich people. That's for wealthy people. No, that's for that other demographic, right? And they're like, nah, that's not for me. But here's the honest truth, family. Work optional doesn't mean you stop working. It just simply means that that work is a choice. It is no longer a requirement. You can choose if you want to work or not. Like, how beautiful would that be with respects to your mental health, with respects to your relationship with your spouse and with your kids, and how would that be if work was a choice? Hey, what? I don't need to go into the office today, right? The bills are paid. I'm going to take, a week off, 2 weeks off, 30 days off, 30, 60, 90 days off. We're going to travel the world. We're going to travel the country, whatever the case may be, right? Like, how beautiful would that be? Like, what would change in your relationship with your family and things of that nature, right? So again, work optional doesn't mean you just, sit on the couch and eat bonbons. It just means that work is a choice, not a requirement, right? How beautiful would that be, right? But the challenge is if you've never seen it, right? If you've never seen it, you don't believe it and your mind will reject it. So until you find individuals who are actually work optional and can see how they did it and learn from them how they got it done, your mind is going to reject it as, oh, that's BS, oh, that's a scam, oh, that can never happen, right? And what's crazy is your mind will reject it even if your finances say you can do it. Guaranteed. I can think of so many of my clients that we worked with that's like, man, do you think, Perry, I can be, work option on the next 12 months? Yep. And we worked with that client. We identified where they had access to about $700,000. And now we're going to be looking forward, looking in 2026 to find a deal where they can actually, purchase, invest in something that's going to give them the $5,000 a month that they want to live off of. Right. So let that sink in for a second. Like, that is crazy when you think about it, right? And so many of us have access to capital that we didn't even know we had access to. All right, number two, scarcity programming kicks in. Scarcity says this: well, what if the money runs out? What if I mess this thing up? Literally, I just had a client say this to me. We just identified where they got access to a little over $100,000. That $100,000 means that they are now in the market to look for, some type of investment around, 800,000 to $1 million. And you may be like, well, Perry, how did you get to that number? Well, I mean, if you got access to $100,000, right? 10% down, using that as 10% down on a, SBA loan or some type of loan is going to put you in that, $1 million, $800,000 range, right? So the thing they said to us after we identified the money and said, hey, this is the opportunity that you have, man, but what if I mess this up, right? That scarcity programming kicks in, right? The next thing is you hear is like, what if I stop and can't restart? These are all the scarcity programming that kicks in. What's crazy is that same scarcity programming, right? Um, is not being applied to the system, the operating system that the financial markets have installed in us, right? You can run out of money in your 401k, but you're dependent on that. Pensions can get tapped and stopped, increasing money, right? Right. A whole bunch of things can mess up, right? The stock market could correct by or go down or crash, 20, 30, 40, 50%. What in the world happened to the people who retired around 2007 and 2009 when the market dropped down around 50% and they were taking money out of their retirement accounts, right? Their retirement accounts were cut in half, right? And if they got frightened and got out of the market, right, they may be, working part-time right now as, Walmart greeters and Uber drivers and things of that nature, right? So there's always an opportunity for things to mess up. But here's the deal. Would you rather be in control of your finances versus being dependent on something that you cannot control? So here's the deal. Scarcity isn't logical, it's emotional memory. Your brain would rather keep a familiar struggle than step into unfamiliar freedom. Let me say that again because that is an absolute bar. Your brain would rather keep a familiar struggle than step into an unfamiliar freedom. Even positive change can feel unsafe. We see this in relationships all the time. I can't tell you how many people I see in toxic relationships, and they rather stay in a familiar struggle relationship then leave that and step into an unfamiliar space where they can find, that person, find their soulmate, find that partner who's going to help them become a better version of themselves, right? We see it all the time. We see it in relationships. We see it in marriages. We definitely see it in people's finances. We see it in businesses. Like, that's just how our brain works, right? Your brain would rather be like, man, I just rather just stay here and struggle and be broke than step into this new unfamiliar place where I could possibly get some freedom. That is conditioning, right? So even positive change can feel unsafe. Number three, and I learned this from Coach Lena, who I've partnered with, also too with Jesse for our 2026 goal setting piece. And she shared this, and I was like, this is absolutely phenomenal. Number three, your nervous system is wired to resist change. Have you ever considered why you struggle with your finances? Why you don't go after new opportunities? Why you're content with staying where you are? It's because of your nervous system. It's because of your neurological system. It's because of the way your brain is firing, and then how your brain is firing, and how that's impacting your emotions and your perceptions and things of that nature. Check this out. Your nervous system's job is survival, right? You guys heard of like the fight and flight. Okay, cool. Man, it's ooh, man, I'm faced with I'm faced with a challenge. I'm faced with a danger. Nervous system's like, ooh, put them up. We about to go fight that thing out. Or like, I'm out of here, right? Your nervous system job is survival, is to keep you safe. Your nervous system job is not to create abundance. So your nervous system, right, is impacting your ability to seek financial freedom even when freedom is available, right? So, if you're thinking about starting a business or investing in something, or but I find a lot of people are terrified about getting a home equity line of credit on their home, and because they're just terrified of, and they don't understand how it works and whatnot, right? What happens, I'm saying, right? Your body tightens up, like, ooh, don't want to do that. Your mind stalls. Geez, well, no, you know what I'm saying? Procrastination kicks in. Well, I'll research it later or I'll do it later, right? Here's the deal, fam. That's not you being lazy, because that's your nervous system hasn't been trained for that level of choice yet. That doesn't seem safe yet. So because that doesn't seem safe, your nervous system then responds like, man, we're going to stay right here where we know where this is. So until you get into rooms where you start to see individuals doing this, you start to see individuals model this whole concept of work optionality, until you have a conversation with somebody who's work optional, right? Until you learn, what needs to happen to become work optional, right? You're going to think that becoming work optional is unsafe, because your nervous system hasn't been trained to think that that is a safe place. I recently did a master class on the dangers of having a paycheck, right? And there's so many different levels to this, family, around the dangers of having a paycheck, having one paycheck, right? Because if anybody knows my story, July 8th, 2014, I was fired from my last corporate job, and I was making a great paycheck, I'm saying, a mid five figure monthly paycheck, and lost that job. And you know I remember a friend talking to me before that, lost that job. He said, hey man, these companies don't love us. These companies, saying, you want to say, saying, they don't love us. And I was like, yeah, man, but I'm getting this paycheck. I'm gonna stay right here, because my nervous system had me believing that that paycheck and that quote unquote guarantee was safe, until they let my ass go. And I realized how unsafe depending on one paycheck was, right? So again, you're not lazy. Your nervous system is focused on keeping you safe and survival mode. You have to reorganize your nervous system to understand that there is still safety in making a choice to do something different. That's why just having a strategy doesn't work alone. And what I mean by not having a strategy doesn't work alone, I've recently been telling folks that, hey, they're coming to me like, oh, Perry, I want to work with you. I heard you're an advisor. I want to invest. And I'm like, man, here's the deal, fam. I don't work one on one with clients anymore. And folks kind of look at me sideways like, oh, you too good to work with me. No, that's not the case at all, family. I don't work one on one with people anymore because I care about you and because I love people and I want to see people win. Because the reality is, me giving you a stock strategy is not going to create financial freedom. Me making a stock recommendation, me making a, hey, get this retirement account. Hey, no, that is not going to create financial freedom. Financial freedom and becoming work optional is only going to be created by reprogramming yourself. I shared this with my frat brothers yesterday. A big shout out to the Noops. Yo, yo. We all, as human beings, have hardware, right? That's what God gave you. He gave you your brain to think the way that it thinks. He gave you your body, you know what I'm saying? All that uniqueness that comes with it. So that's your hardware. Software is what has been installed, it's what we've been taught, it's what we've been conditioned to believe. Until we uninstall that software that's been, that has, you know what I'm saying, been running our hardware for this time, until we rewire that and install a new software, and also to get rid of all of the, viruses and all the cookies and all the stuff from that old software, which takes time. That doesn't happen with just, oh, somebody gave me a great stock idea. You actually have to take time to reprogram yourself, right? To get that new software. Until that happens, you getting a investment strategy is not going to create financial freedom. You actually need structure, you need repetition, and you need safety to rewire your response to becoming financially free, right? Let me check the comments in here. Did y'all grab that? This is what you need, right? To help your nervous system start to understand that it is okay to do something different, right? It is okay to be in 100% control of your finances, right? And not depend on something that you can't control, right? You need structure, repetition, and safety. Let me say that again. You need structure, repetition, and safety. And that's why I stopped working one-on-one with people, because, meeting with somebody 4 times a year to review their account is not going to move the needle. They need to be in an environment where they're getting weekly, assistance, where they're getting monthly, strategy calls. They're in a room with people who are having, different challenges, but also two wins that they can learn from and they can model after, right? That's why we created our mastermind, because in that we can actually give people the structure, repetition, and safety that they need. All right, number 4, y'all, last one as we finish this up. I don't know what to do with my time. This one blew my mind, but I realized it's a real thing. I was talking to a good friend of mine here recently. We went out to lunch, and he was attending one of our private events, and then he wanted to take me out to lunch and continue the conversation. And he said to me, like, man, I'm pretty sure I could become work optional, in the next year. He threw all this, his expenses and his portfolio numbers in a chat GPT, and it's like, hey, and chat GPT was like, yeah, you can be work optional in the next year or so, right? I think it was next year. I think that's what he told me. Maybe it was 5 years, but nonetheless, it wasn't no 10, 20, 15, 30 years. And he's like, I was like, man, okay, I can do this thing. But then he was like, well, what would I do with my time? And I'm like, huh, you don't know what you would do with freedom? Let that sink in. How many of us, how many of you have no idea what you would do with freedom? How sad is that? Like, if you did not have to trade your time for money, you were out of the rat race, per Robert Kiyosaki and the cash flow, game and whatnot, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. To sit and be like, I don't know what I would do with my time, right? Like, it wasn't, oh man, I'm gonna spend some more time with my wife, gonna do this with my kids, gonna travel more, right? It's like, I don't know what to do with my time. That's because we have been so conditioned that we got to put in that 40 hours a week. Because we're not putting in that 40 hours a week, we feel like we're not moving forward. We feel like we're not being productive. Like, how sad is that? Like, understand, I'm all about hard work. I work my ass off, even though I'm work optional, because I have a mission to help other people in my vicinity, in my community, become work optional as well. But let that sink in for a second. And then one of our coaches, Lena's asked this question, shared this with me, which I thought was kind of mind blowing. She said, Perry, make a list of 50 things that you want. And I'm going to challenge all of you guys to do the same thing. Make a list of 50 things that you want and do it today. Don't overthink it, right? Just jump right into it. Because after you get past maybe item 10, 15, 20, that's when the shit that's really important to you is going to kick in, right? And you need to have this list, because if you don't know what you would do with freedom, Why would you make the effort to be free? Lord have mercy. Let that sink in. If you don't know what you would do with time freedom, with financial freedom, right? Uh, if you don't know what you would do with it, why would you make the effort to become it, right? So when people say, like, man, I think I could, be work optional, I just don't know what I would do. What they're really saying is this: their life has been built around work identity. It's kind of like you run up on somebody and be like, hey, man, what do you do? Oh, man, I work at, what I'm saying? Oh, I'm a school teacher. Oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, I'm a, financial strategist. Oh, I'm a, right? Oh, me and my wife, what I'm saying? Oh, what do you do? I'm a massage therapist, right? You're more than just your job identity, fam. You're more than just your career badge, right? What I'm saying? You are a beautifully built, wonderfully built in the image, what I'm saying, of the most high being whose, purpose is to impact the lives of others and prepare the next generation to do the same. That's not your job title, right? So who are you? Man, I'm a husband, a father to, I'm a husband to a beautiful wife. I'm a father to, remarkable, sharp, smart kids, right? Uh, I consider myself a community leader. I'm helping individuals become work optional so they can show up in the best. Like I am more than just, oh, I'm a financial advisor, right? So again, when people think I could be work optional, I just don't know what I would do. What they're really saying is they've built their identity around their job. Desire has been buried under responsibility. Man, I can't even think about what I would do because I'm here to provide for the family and put a roof over our heads and all of that. And all of that is hella dope. All of that is hella important, right? But you now have buried your desire to travel the world. You buried your desire to eat different foods. You buried your desire to be romantic. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I brought up the romantic because we was on our call last night and people kind of like identifying gaps in their life. And so many people's like, man, I don't have any romance. Have you ever thought that you don't have any romance because you don't have the time to go out there and find your person because you're so buried underneath your job and paying bills and going to school and getting degrees and all of those things? You're so buried in responsibility, taking kids to AU tournaments and things. You're so buried that you haven't come up for air to see what's around you and find, and see that, that person that would add so much to your life is right in front of you, right? And your imagination, lastly on this, your imagination has been offline for years, right? You stop imagining, you stop dreaming. Like I dealt with that. I had to deal with this. You know what I'm saying? I remember one of my first coaches I hired. Big shout out to my sister Monty. Um, One of the first things she asked me is like, "Hey, tell me about your dream house." And I was like, "Dream house? I don't have a dream house." She's like, "You don't have a dream house?" I was like, "No. I mean, I guess my dream house would be whatever house that my wife wants, right?" I didn't dream. Now I can be like, no, I kind of do have my dream house. We're close. Like the home that we just recently bought is close to being our dream house. I don't want a big yard because I don't want to cut no grass, right? That's a dream. We have a basketball hoop. That's a dream. We have room for a pool table. Hopefully, my wife will let me get a pool table maybe this year since I'm turning 50. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Y'all mention something to her if y'all see her, right? But now I'm like, no, if what I'm saying, my dream house would have a full gym, right? Full workout gym, you know what I'm saying? Sauna, equipped with sauna and hot tub. My dream home would have a full indoor basketball court, a full, lounge, right? So we have a beautiful home, but I've never thought about dreaming until here recently, right? So again, becoming work optional, you deserve it, right? Because here's the deal: freedom is going to feel scary when you've never even been commissioned to even want to be free, right? So take some time to do that exercise. Right, list those 50 things. List those 50 things that you want, and I promise you, you're going to realize some things and be like, "Yo, I didn't even know that was a want or desire of mine." Yeah, super important, family, super important, right? So if any of this resonated with your fam, appreciate y'all. rocking with me on the first episode of 2026. You know what I'm saying? I pray and hope you got some value. If you did get some value, man, make sure you share this, with your friends and family, right? Because we want to make sure that we're sharing this message. And if you're interested in learning more, our doors are open for our Think Like the Bank challenge, right? Where we spend 5 days. You'll get to spend anywhere between 5 and 10 hours with me over those days, learning the mindset shifts you need to make in order to become work optional, learning the strategies that the banks use to create cash flow, which is going to give you your financial freedom, and also to really being able to dial in to the reality that you are probably closer to being work optional than you realize. Just go to www.cashflowunlocked /register hyphen now, and come into the challenge and see and come and learn some things and get exposed to some different concepts. I promise you it's going to be well worth your time, and you're going to learn some concepts and be extremely enlightened and have an idea of what your next steps need to be in order to become work optional. All right, y'all, we'll see you in the next episode. Perry Jeffries out. Cash Flow Show. Peace.